On this episode, we are talking about how people go from soulmates to roommates and to sometimes inmates. You are now tuned into the Doscinco Project. I'm going to tell you this right now. It's getting out of hand with all of this store theft that's happening. You understand? I'm getting tired of people just ransacking these stores, stealing 1,000 items and walking out with no problem. Walking out with no problem, y'all. Like, it's getting a little bit out of hand, man. It's like, where's the justice at, man? And I also heard that, you know, according to law in some states and in some cities, that if you steal less than $1,000, they can't press these crazy criminal charges on you. You literally, it ain't nothing but an insurance write-off, and that's it, man. Like, to a lot of these companies, they ain't nothing but a write-off that they can send over to the insurance companies, and that's it. But it's ridiculous because I'm a hard-working person. You know, I'm a citizen that works hard, pays his taxes. I do everything that I possibly can in order to be on the straight and narrow, right? So when I get paid and I go into these stores like Target and Walgreens, and I go and I buy one item and I leave up out of there, I have no money left over. That's ridiculous, man. Versus somebody that has no money, goes into the store, steals 100 items, walks out, and goes away scot-free. This is ridiculous, y'all. Like, what are we doing, man? And I'm not hating. But it's like, do y'all want us to work or do you not want us to work? Do you want us to be future criminals or do you want us to be law-abiding citizens? Like, which one is it? You know? And I'm also getting tired of going into Walgreens and it feels like I'm walking into a museum. I feel like I'm walking into a museum because all of the products is behind glass. And I got to ask that one associate, because there's only one associate in the entire Walgreens. He handling the photos, he handling the front cashier, and he handling the pharmacy in the back. But you go to them and you need toothpaste in aisle 8 all the way in the back, and you got to wait for him to go all the way back there after he done took care of 3-4 customers. It's ridiculous, man. Going into Walgreens is like going into a museum, man. It really is. We got to do something about this, man. And I say we take it back to medieval times. Off with your hands. Off with your head. You know, and the reason why I say that, obviously there's a little sarcasm, this is a little parody with it, you know. But I mean that, man. We gotta instill something. We gotta allow, you know, these individuals to understand that what they doing is wrong and people shouldn't go that route. So if it's off with your hands, then you will forever remember that you know not to do that again because, oops, you ain't got no more hands. You know, you steal candy, we take a finger, maybe a half a thumb. You know, you kill somebody, off with your head. Especially if we know you the gunman. You know, you have these individuals that will literally do a mass shooting and everybody knows that it was that person because you have video, you got evidence, you got statements, you got everything that pretty much points to that one gunman, and they still got to go to court to prove their innocence. Like, I don't understand that. And I get it, it's our constitutional right, but come on, y'all. Y'all know that's the gunman. Off with his head. You know, let's open up the public squares again. Let's bring out the guillotine and off with the head, man. Had that joint rolling down the street. So that way the public knows, y'all better know not to take nobody's life. And that person up there looking silly is going to face the public embarrassment of his head rolling down the street. You know? But that's just me, y'all. That's just me. I'm a little frustrated, man. I'm going to tell you the reason why I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because they killing the coquís up in Puerto Rico, man. Off with your head. Off with your hands, too, for spraying them. Y'all killing the coquís. You know, and it was hilarious because I was watching this one video on TikTok, and this lady, she was hilarious. She, you know, it's called coquí, right? It's coquí. She says, guys, you're coming into Puerto Rico and you're killing the coquís. You know, you're killing the like you ain't even saying it correctly, but I love that you advocating for it. So let me tell you what's going on in Puerto Rico, right? First of all, Puerto Rico is where a lot of my relatives have come from, right? And apparently there's a lot of Americans on the island and especially tourists. And what happens is coquís, especially in the night, you hear them. They have a distinct sound. Apparently, they only live in Hawaii and they live in Puerto Rico, and that's it. Nowhere else around the world. So they're very native to these particular islands, and that's it. So my thing is, y'all hear the coquís at night, and now you take it upon yourself to want to go ahead and spray the coquís so they can stop making the sounds, and you're killing them off. Like, what is we doing? Let me get this right. You go into an island for a visit and decide to go ahead and try to eliminate the reptile that's native to the land. That's like me going into your house and killing your cat because it scratched me. Like, what is we doing, y'all? Like, leave things where they belong. Like, just leave them alone. You don't want to be on the island because you don't want to hear that sound. Then go back to the United States or America and hear the crickets at night. That ain't nothing but, if you really want to look at it, ain't nothing but a reptilian cricket. It's a reptile cricket. Just think of it like that. The coquís are like, coquí, coquí. Like that's the sound that they making. The crickets, we already know what they sound. It ain't nothing but a reptile cricket, man. Just put that in your head and you'll be okay. Don't be spraying the doggone crickets, man. Don't be spraying the coquís, man. Leave them alone. It's a very distinct sound. I want to go to Puerto Rico and I want to be able to hear that sound when I go on vacation, okay? Just leave them alone. Leave them alone, y'all. But I want to talk about the topic for today. Is soulmates to roommates. What do I mean by that? Unfortunately, you have a lot of relationships nowadays. And again, I'm no relationship expert. In fact, I'm still learning along the way. It's going to continue to take me years. I think a lifetime to learn how a relationship functions. But overall, you have so many couples now that are living in the home together and they're separate and they sleep in separate rooms. They roommates because they can't stand each other. I'm like, when does that even become a thing? At first y'all had butterflies because every time you saw that person, it was excitement. When you're building upon that relationship, especially during that honeymoon phase, there was excitement. You saw them, you got butterflies. Y'all went out on dates. Y'all dressed up for one another. You were excited to just be on the phone with that person all day until they passed out at night. Some of y'all FaceTiming with them as they sleep. Y'all doing all that to the point where now the relationship transitioned from butterflies to bees. Now you got bees in the stomach stinging you every time you see them. You get irritated every time you see them. Get irritated. You rolling your eyes because you see them. And then social media doesn't help out. Social media, all you hearing is nothing but hurt people projecting their perspectives on how they felt in their experience within their relationship, and they projecting their crazy advice onto the world, y'all. And it's sad because now you have this divide between men and women, and there's no more unity, there's no more this union or this bond where people respect each other. You got a bunch of hurt men talking about what you should do as a man, and then you got a bunch of hurt women talking about what you should do as females, and there's no connection between any. And it's sad. So, this roommate stuff, this got to stop, y'all. Like, what is we doing? Like, it makes so many people afraid of marriage because you have, these individuals that they decide to go ahead and propose, go ahead and go through the wedding ceremony, and now you're in a marriage and you're disgusted and you can't, and you hate being in that marriage. You talk bad about your wife, you talk bad about your husband. The only reason why you guys are living together is because you can't afford to be apart. What are we doing? And I'm not trying to say I'm the expert because I clearly am not the expert, but I know that's not the way I want to live my life. I know that's not the way I want to live my life. I don't want to be a roommate with nobody. If I'm going to be in a relationship, I'm going to make sure that I'm in a relationship with somebody that I'm a best friend to. And guess what? We're going to have our ups and downs. We're going to have our communication issues every now and then, but we're going to work at it and we're going to continue to build. But you can't build if there's no communication. You can and you can't communicate if you don't know how to communicate. And what I mean by that is sometimes y'all got to humble yourselves and you got to sit down and you got to understand that whatever that person is saying, that's just their perspective, but hear them out. Because you might get some gems from it, and vice versa. You know, if you're communicating and now you're allowing the person to at least offer a rebuttal or what have you, allow them to speak too, so that way they can tell you what they mean. And that's the way you communicate. And work on it. It ain't going to be perfect, but work on your communication. These relationships are all about communicating, you know? And you constantly hear, unfortunately, in these relationships that there's lack of intimacy. There's no intimacy at all in these relationships. So now these guys or these women feel like they're now in a prison and now they inmates. So now you go from soulmate to roommate to inmate, you know, because now you feel like you in a prison. Now you locked down by this marital bond that's on paperwork connected to the government, because you know darn well when it's time to go to court and you want that divorce, they're going to make you go through the ringer in order to get up out of it. So now you in this prison and it's cheaper to keep her, you know. But I don't want you to hear my perspective. I want you to hear the perspective of this man right here. Apparently he going through it. Found this on TikTok. He said the person you thought was your soulmate is now just a roommate.
You know, the person that you thought was going to be your soulmate is only your roommate now. You know, a lot of people living like that, man. I lived like that for 13 years, man. Lived in a house with a person who had no feelings at all. I mean, walked around and I would tell this person, I'd be like, I mean, there would be, you know, intimacy and things like that, but you knew that something was way off, that it wasn't the way that it was supposed to be. So, like, I would tell this person on a regular basis, like, I feel like we're just roommates. Like, you know, it would be, there was no affection. I mean, as far as, now, let me tell you this. In the beginning, when we first started dating, early on in the marriage, I mean, it was all kind of affection and stuff, but they do that stuff to pull you in, right? And once you get in and get locked in, it's like it's all over. It's like I would even ask this person, like, why don't you sit on my lap anymore the way you used to? Why don't you hug me like you used to? All of that stuff just ended, right? So you end up being with a person, and if you're like me, I was trying to live by the Bible, right? So I was trying to tell myself that just be patient. I'm gonna keep praying, and this person is gonna change. This person, when you're dealing with a narcissist, you can forget it. When you're dealing with a person who only care about that stuff, you can forget. You can pray all you want to pray because they're demonic and they don't care about your prayers. They don't want to change, right? So you sit and you live in this crazy environment with a person that you're married to, but you know deep down inside there's nothing between y'all, that this person does not feel, this person does not care, this person is somebody that you don't even know. You thought you would end up, like I said, you thought you had your soul, you thought you had your soulmate, but then you end up just having a roommate. How many of y'all got that testimony of, you know, you thought you had somebody that was going to be there the rest of your life with you, and it turned out to be a nightmare?
That's what I said, man, because I feel for him, but also you don't know what the perspective is from the woman. You don't know what her side is, because you know in every situation there's always three sides to the story. There's her side, his side, and then you got the truth in between. You understand? So, you know, it's kind of sad because you hear a lot about these relationships nowadays. You have some individuals, they don't even want to get married because of this, because they feel like they're entering into a bad contract. You know, they feel like they can't trust the other party, so to speak. I mean, I think you have about 70% of marriages end in divorce now, you know, and I'm a firm believer in believing, especially nowadays, you know, that a lot of people want to get married because of the wedding ceremony. They want to get married because there's going to be a big event involved. They want to get married because, you know, the ring on the finger got to be 1.5 to 2 to 3 to 4 carats so you can show it on Instagram. A lot of people doing this stuff for Instagram, you know, so you got to really take a deep dive and you got to really look into what you're committing to. Because if you're just doing it for the ceremony and you're just doing it for the ring, then you better not do it at all, because you entering a bad contract for no reason. You know, you got so many people just want the titles. It's almost like you collecting degrees. So you got all your degrees, now you want the title. That's another degree. I want the title. I want to be called wife. I want to be called husband. You know, and it's sad. We got to stop looking at it from a superficial standpoint. We got to start looking at it from where the way it was meant to be. You know, because I'm gonna be honest, We could say what we want, but marriage was created by the Bible. It was created in the Bible. It was created by God. You know, it was stated by way of the Bible that two shall become as one. You know, and within the scriptures, it gave you the rules that you need to abide by in order to have a successful marriage. You know, and one of those rules that comes to mind is husbands continue loving your wives, and wives have deep respect for your husband. And I'm gonna be honest, it goes hand in hand. Respect and love go hand in hand. When you got a woman that has deep respect, it says deep respect. When you have a woman that has deep respect for you, let me tell you, as a man, you feel respected, you feel secure in your relationship, and your woman ain't out there running out on you and acting crazy and disrespecting you, and she doing exactly what she does as a woman within the household. You have no reason not to love that woman. You know, you have every reason to just shower her with nothing but love, because women want love. Us, I'm gonna be honest, it's very easy for us. You know, as men, it's very easy. We want peace in the household, we want loyalty, and we want, obviously, the intimacy within the relationship, right? We want those things. We don't care what you buy us. We don't care we don't care about none of that. We just want to make sure that we secure in the relationship because you're loyal to us. You know, you create peace within the household. You create a peaceful environment. And you provide us with the affection and intimacy, because just like y'all want affection, we want affection too, you know, and vice versa. I think with women, y'all want to be loved. You want to be, you want to understand that person is going to protect you. They're going to provide for you, and they're going to love you, and they're going to do everything they possibly can in order to make sure that you are secure within the relationship as well. And again, I'm no marriage expert at all. I came out of a 16-year relationship, 7 years married and divorced. You understand? Because I got into a relationship very young. I got into a relationship when I was 17 years old. I ain't know what I was doing. So I'm talking to the kids 24/7 like, listen, I'm going to tell you this right now. You're 14, you're 12 years old. I understand y'all like girls. Okay, that's cool. That's all fun and games. But I'm going to tell you this right now. Y'all better not enter into a serious relationship at a very early age, because your brains are not even developed yet. So you can't even conceive how to really take that serious. You know? I'm over here trying to mimic what my parents did. My parents got together at a very young age. I think it was like 15 or 17 or something like that. Okay? Had me at 18 years old. When they were 18 years old, they got married. They've been together for 40 something years. You know? But at the end of the day, they were still young. They made mistakes along the way. But I'm trying to safeguard these kids to have an understanding. Listen, you gotta have you need to put relationship in its proper place. You know, it ain't nothing to play around with. You go ahead and play around relationship, you end up with a baby. You go ahead and play around with a relationship, you end up with heartbreak. You go ahead and play around with a relationship, and you end up with some turmoil and some PTSD that you can't even get out of, because now you're crushed because you can no longer trust women, or you can no longer trust men. You can no longer trust being in a relationship, and you can no longer trust, and you feel like a failure because you've been in a relationship and it turned out bad for you. This is what happens when you get into a relationship at a young age. Now, I'm not saying that there's not success out of that. There is, but there's also a lot of failures within that as well. I believe relationships, you should enter into relationships when you're older, when you understand what you're getting into. And marriage especially, you should not be entering no marriage if you have a bunch of what ifs. You should not be entering marriage if you have an immature mindset. You should not be entering marriage if you haven't gotten your stuff in a row yet. If you ain't got your spirituality in a row, your financials, your mental, your physical, then what are you doing? What are you doing? And if the mindset is, oh, I want to get married because I want to wear that nice white dress so I can walk down the aisle so everybody can look at me, so we can have the DJ pop, and we doing this, we doing that, we get to go on our honeymoon. You don't need to be getting married, because marriage is not about the ceremony. Marriage is long term. Marriage is till death do you part. Marriage is sickness and in health. You understand? Sickness and in health. Marriage is good times, bad times. But see, the problem is a lot of people get married thinking it's always going to be all good times. Well, what happens if that person is stricken with cancer? What happens if that person is now in a wheelchair for the rest of their life, but you met them when they weren't that way? What happens when they get older and now they're no longer that youthful, attractive person that you once had? What happens? These are all the scenarios that come within a relationship. What happens when you have kids and God forbid one of your kids passes away? And now y'all don't know how to deal. Y'all supposed to be helping build each other up and encourage one another and help one another out. But you have so many that fight against each other. Next thing you know, you sleeping with the enemy. What was once your best friend is now your enemy. And now you got all this turmoil within your house. And now you have kids, your offspring, witnessing all this craziness that's going on in your house. And now that offspring is growing up thinking that relationships are like that. I know individuals right now that are 80 something years old and still talking about that time that person cheated on them. And that person's been in the grave for the past 5 years, man. We got to let it go, man. You know, it's a lifelong experience. It's a lifelong experience, man. When you get into a relationship with someone, you're supposed to be getting into a relationship with somebody that's your best friend. Somebody that you can vibe with, somebody that you rely on, somebody that you can build with. But if you feel like you're the only one building and that person is just taking, or taking every brick, as you build the brick and as you get higher, they taking the brick from under, then you need to get away from that person because not everybody gonna be for you. And we are so superficial nowadays that we are only worried about attractiveness. We are only worrying about beauty. We are only, but you got to understand, behind all that makeup, behind all those abs, behind all of that, you might have a really nasty person that'll make your life a living hell. You have relationships that can uplift you, and you have relationships that can be the death of you. You understand? You have individuals right now that will set you up in a heartbeat. They claim to be your girlfriend. They claim to be your husband or your boyfriend, and they will set you up in a heartbeat in order to get rid of you. You have individuals that will be very disrespectful towards you. And now you fighting all types of battles out there in them streets based off of what they doing. It's very important that you pick the right person. It's very important that you pick a suitable marriage mate. Marriage ain't for everybody, y'all. Even the Bible tells you, if you're not married, stay in your singleness and enjoy it, I believe. I believe that's what the scriptures say. You know, I'll look it up, but I believe it says something about not everybody's capable of being married. You know, that's a lot of hard work, man. Believe me, I was in a marriage for 7 years, a lot of hard work. Relationship for 16 years, a lot of hard work. I'm in a relationship now, about to be 6 years, a lot of hard work. You know? It's a lot of hard work, man. Because you're going to go through that friction sometimes. So how do y'all deal with the friction? And I'm going to tell you this right now, but that communication piece is a big piece, man. I'm going to tell you this right now, that what comes out of your mouth, once you put it out there, it's out there. You can't bring it back. You can't take it back. Let you go out there and you curse at your woman and you curse at your man and you belittle them, or you make them feel insecure about what you say. You can't take that back. Sometimes they worse than physical punches. Sometimes they work. Let me tell you, those mental bruises last a lifetime. I don't care how many apologies, how many sorries you have. You can literally break somebody down by the stuff that you come out your mouth with if you're very loose with your tongue. And again, this all comes with maturity. This all comes with maturity, because when you immature and you young and dumb, you're going to say some stuff out your mouth that you're probably not going to be able to take back. That's why it's very important when you get into these relationships that you have the maturity and the know-how in order to navigate that. It ain't going to be perfect, but at least you are 10 steps ahead. I want to play this video, man. I want to play this video. I forgot his name, but he's a very good speaker. I believe he's from the Nation of Islam, but he said something that was very powerful, and I thought it would be great for me to share this with y'all.
The most important decision you will ever make in your life after choosing to believe in God is the mate you choose to spend the rest of your life with. Your mate will either inspire you to grow into your greatness, or they'll confine you to complacency. They'll either be your other half, or they'll make you half of yourself. A good relationship will make you more youthful and bring out the best in you, and a bad one will age you prematurely and bring out the worst. So choose wisely.
You hear that? Choose wisely. A relationship can can add on to you. See, I'm already messing his thing up. Or it can make you half yourself. It can make you youthful, or it could prematurely age you. You know, I think a lot of relationships have been through those times where you go doing the silent treatment for days on end, your stomach hurt, you don't want to eat, or you can't even work. You at work with heartbreak. Everybody's been through that, man. Everybody's been through a situation where there's infidelity in the relationship, man. It's not easy. You know, it's not easy. Sometimes you could be in a relationship and you can literally mourn them as if they were dead. Breakups are very hard. It's not easy. But one thing I will say is that you can overcome if you are overcoming a breakup. If you are going through a breakup, you can overcome. You can. It's not the end of the world. It's okay for you to be in your emotions. Nobody's saying that you got to snap out of it right there and then, but you got to snap out of it eventually. You can't be laid up on the couch for weeks on end, depressed. Eventually, you're going to have to get up and you're going to have to go on with your life. And I know you don't. I know a lot of y'all don't want to go on with your life. I understand that you've been in that relationship for such a long time, but I'm going to tell you this right now, just like Fabulous said, it ain't the length of the relationship, it's the strength of the relationship. And I'm going to say that one more again. Like Fabulous said, it ain't the length of the relationship, it's the strength of the relationship. You could be with somebody 15, 20 years, can't stand them, and they ain't adding no value to your life. Versus being in a relationship for 2 years, and let me tell you, that person gave you everything you needed, fulfilled you, and poured into you for those 2 years than you got for the 15 years you was in that relationship. It's all about the quality. It ain't about quantity. You want to be able to pour into somebody. That's why you got to love yourself. That's why you got to be really into building up yourself. And I'm going to tell you this right now. You in a relationship, don't let yourself go. Okay? Don't let yourself go. The same way y'all was dating and you was getting dressed up, physically looking good and smelling good, keep that same energy. Don't think in your head, oh, I got him, I'm good. Because you don't never always got him. You want to be able to stay ready and not get ready. So therefore, it's better to always keep yourself up. Keep yourself physically strong. Keep yourself mentally strong. Keep yourself spiritually strong, y'all. A lot of y'all don't realize, but there's spiritual warfare out there, man. It's spiritual warfare out there. And for those of you that believe in the Bible, I'm a firm believer of the Bible. Let me tell you, the Bible says you don't want to leave temptation. You don't want to leave room for the devil to infiltrate your relationship and destroy it. Because let me tell you this right now. For a single person, he go after that one person, he destroys that one person. If he can destroy a relationship or marriage, he destroys a whole family. Okay? He destroys a whole family. What do I mean by that? You got a husband, you got a wife, you got 2 kids. This is just a perfect scenario. That's 4 people. You break up a marriage by having Satan come in and place that temptation. You just now created a broken home for 4 people, man. Because now the kids are affected by that. There's so many kids affected by the relationship because you decide to choose the person that you decide to be with and you decided not to make it work and y'all decide not to come together for the betterment of the family. And so therefore, now you have all this opposition even with the kids and now they going through a bunch of mental situations based off of the trauma that you projected down on them based off of the crazy relationship you had, man. Talk to me. You know? So I'm going to tell you this right now. If you're in a relationship, you know, try to make it work. If you're in a relationship, try to make it work. You know, they say date your wife, date your husband. You know, try to keep that spark. And if you guys are already in that roommate state, let me tell you, where there's a will, there's a way. If you're still alive, you still have a chance. If you're still alive, you still can make things happen and kind of better your situation. It ain't one of those situations where it's hopeless. And if it is hopeless, then you got to do what you got to do. But I'll be darned if I'm going to stay in a relationship or I'll be darned if I'm going to be in a relationship where I end up a roommate. We're not going from soulmates to roommates. And we ain't going from soulmates to inmates either. This concludes this episode, y'all. I wish y'all nothing but the best. Continue to put that positivity out there. Continue to make that positive impact in this world and positive impact on your family. And continue to better yourself each and every day, y'all. We got planes to catch. We ain't got no time for the nonsense.